What is your why the heck did I do that moment? Was cleaning up the floor lamp display Nike when I came across one without a shade or bulb in it. For reasons known only to God, I put my finger in it. It was still plugged in. It hurt. Went for my break after that to try and figure out why I just done it. Still don't know to this day why. I did this once, but had my legs bent at the time. Literally fired myself across the room, fully hit the back wall. Once I didn't feel like I could keep going with my job. I didn't feel comfortable there. I said fuck this and yelled at my manager. Thing is, I needed the job. Family was going through a rough time. Next day I showed up and my manager ringed me up. He told me he understood my frustration and recommended meditation. Told me not to lash out on him again like that. I still left a few months later, but I still feel mad respect for the guy after that. Basement flooded. 4 feet of water. A humidifier, ironic, was on, plugged in, and making weird noises because it was submerged in water. My barely awake brain went, must unplug that, and I waded through the 4 feet of water to unplug it. I lived, yay. My daughter, who was 5 at the time, went into my wife and I's bathroom and managed to lock herself in. The lock on the door is weird and problematic. She couldn't get out, so I had to call a locksmith. It took him a solid 2 hours to get her out of there. He finally gets it open, but at this point we are late for our dinner reservation with my wife's family, so we agree he'll come by later in the week to fix the lock. He tells me very clearly, don't shut this door until I fix it. If you do, this will happen again. I'm sure you can all guess where this is headed, and you're right. The next day, home alone, I walk in there to take a leak and reflexively shut the door behind me. I spent about half an hour trying to get out before I finally called the locksmith. That convo went like this. Hey, it's Deacon Frosted Flakes. You were over at my place yesterday. Oh yeah, I remember. You're calling to schedule the follow-up. Well actually, it happened again. I'm stuck in the bathroom right now. Are you serious? Guy was a real professional. Never before or since have I heard such polite astonishment packed into a 3-word question. He came over again, but obviously he had to charge us for it. Possibly the most expensive way I've ever embarrassed myself. Was washing my hands and randomly spaced out as I was pumping the foam type soap into them. Snapped back to it, and there was a huge mound of citrus scented soap in my hands. Monkey brain told me to clap. I did. Superglued my feet into my shoes. Painful recovery process of trying to rip them off of my feet. Not as bad as the guy who superglued his asshole shut then ate laxatives. My boyfriend left his phone at my apartment, so I texted him to let him know. I cracked my screen and took a screenshot to send to the dude I was dating. Dropped something into a deep fryer that was at cooking temperature and then proceeded to reach in and grab it. Definitely not my brightest moment. I ate dog food on stage. I almost vomited in front of more than 30 people. I thought it would be funny for the scene. It was. Just not for me. Riding my bike and there was a parked car blocking the sidewalk, so I went around it and crashed into a stop sign instead. A true bruh moment. Just after college, I was interviewed for a managerial position at a music store that sold records, CDs, and DVDs. First interview question. So, do you listen to a lot of music? Me, immediately, without even hesitating. Not really. I did not get the job. Clearing a crack house known to house several gang members with very bad track records of guns and excessive violence. I was on SWAT at the time, in full riot gear, cleared several rooms with little to no aggression. I got lazy and careless. Casually opened the last room in a hallway and was met with 4 gang members holding 4 guns. I was shot 6 times. Kevlar works. 1 bullet got stopped by a magazine on my belt. A bullet was stopped by other bullets. I strained the liquid out of a can of beans, but forgot to do it over the sink and causally poured bean juice all over my mom's kitchen floor in front of my whole family. When I was young, I came across a beggar whilst going shopping with my parents. My dad called me and pointed to the beggar and their pot of coins, and me being stupid decided to take some of the coins from the beggar. This was quickly stopped, and we gave him money in the end. I hate myself. I was cooking and needed a measurement conversion, so I asked Siri how many ounces is in 10 ounces? I think I meant to ask how many tablespoons or something. Her smartass response was 10. But I don't think you really needed me to tell you that. It had been a really long day. As a kid I was in our driveway messing around with something by myself. I was a fairly quiet, well-behaved kid. For some reason I decided to flip off a random car driving by. About a minute later a car drove by and someone yelled out, "Hey kid, your shoes untied." I looked, they laughed, I cried. No idea why the heck I did that. I played the game. Son of a bitch. It's been years, man, years, and now I'm welcomed back into this insanity by a damn Reddit post. I hope the next time you need a spoon, there are none to be found. Guy begs me for some money. Tell him no. Tell him that if he finds me some drugs I'll give him some. He tells me to give him money and he will go get some. I give him money. Guy leaves to get drugs, or so I thought. 5 minutes later I realize I just gave the guy money. I left and never told anyone. When I was 5, I was building a Lego set while eating a lollipop. I had a Lego brick in one hand and the lollipop in another, and without even thinking about it, put the Lego brick in my mouth. I had already swallowed it whole before my brain started working again, and I realized what I had done. Well, I mistakenly added salt to flour when making pancakes this morning. Instead of throwing it all out and starting over, I tried to save it by adding double the sugar. It was shit. You don't have to stick with mistakes. Getting ready for bed after a really long day. I was sitting on the toilet seat, flossing my teeth with my eyes drooping, and I leaned over and spit on the floor by my feet. Good thing I was home alone, because I laughed like a maniac for a while after that. College male here at the time, when I was normally full of hormones, did even worse when she asked, "Would you like to sleep on my bed with me?" I'm thinking, why I like your bed after a good night's sleep, and 30 years later me says HMM. I was opening a can of food for my cat, and some of the gravy got on my finger. My brain went on autopilot, and I licked my finger clean. I regretted it immediately. When I was 10 I was on vacation and wanted to show off and run into a window and then slide down like those characters in cartoons do. I hit the window and it broke, so I walked to the back of the building I broke the window of, and I told the people I was running and didn't see the window. I wonder if they bought that. It was in 2nd grade of elementary school and me and my buddies came up with quite the dangerous game, although for some reason nobody really thought of it as being dangerous at that time. There was this wooden play structure thing in the sandpit of our schoolyard and a metal slide attached to it, which my friends stood on top of. I was stood down below in the sandpit and we for some reason thought that it would be a great idea for them to launch stones from the top part of the slide by kicking them down towards me as hard as they could while I would try and catch them. Well, it took like 3 to 4 stones that were going so fast that I could barely even see them until something suddenly struck my forehead and stunned me pretty bad. I couldn't really feel much, but only saw that my friends were freaking out on top of the slide and that they screamed for help. My vision then turned red from all the blood that came out of my forehead, and I was suddenly picked up by the school's janitor, who carried me inside and into the school's hospital area. My mother soon after came and picked me up to go to the where they found that my skull was thankfully intact and that I had only suffered a somewhat deep laceration, which they decided not to stitch up though, as that would have left me with quite the scar. So yay, that was pretty stupid in retrospect, and I cold easily lost an eye for example instead. This was my sophomore year homecoming. I went with my girlfriend, she broke up with me, and we were having a great time. We met up with my friends and drew a few pentagrams. So I was talking to my friend Maximum when my friend Vadim runs up and says, "Kiss me." Vadim is a 6ft3 in Russian. I just said what he said, it was for $1. We have a video of it and we both made $1. I was broken up with that night. Well worth it for $1. I have no idea what I just read. My daughter had a friend over for a sleepover. She was about 8. They were doing science experiments. They were testing if fingernail polish remover is flammable. It is. Her friend came running into the living room telling us her desk was on fire. It was out by the time we got in there.